Are you ready to unlock your full potential and maximize your productivity? Look no further than Productivity Smarts, the ultimate audio podcast hosted by renowned productivity expert Gerald J. Leonard. In every episode, Gerald shares captivating stories, invaluable tips, and cutting-edge strategies that will transform the way you approach productivity. Whether you're looking to reduce stress, overcome overwhelm, or simply get more done in less time, Productivity Smarts has got you covered. But that's not all. You'll also gain inspiration from real-life success stories of individuals who have achieved greatness through productivity. Plus, you'll learn the latest tools, techniques, and habits that will help you achieve a new level of happiness and fulfillment in your personal and professional life. So why wait? Join us every week as we delve into the exciting world of productivity and help you unleash your full potential. Get ready to take your productivity to the next level with Productivity Smarts. As a productivity expert and host of the Productivity Smarts podcast, Gerald J. Leonard has been a proud supporter of Kiva since 2011. Kiva is a non-profit organization that helps entrepreneurs in third world countries access the capital they need to start or grow their businesses. By making a small loan through Kiva, you can help these entrepreneurs achieve their dreams, support their families, and contribute to their local economies. And with a repayment rate of over 96%, your loan can be relent to another entrepreneur once it's repaid, creating a ripple effect of positive change. So if you're looking for a meaningful way to make a difference in the world, consider making a loan through Kiva. With loans as small as $25, anyone can be a microlender and help change lives. Visit kiva.org to learn more and start lending today.
Okay, today we're speaking with John Suzuki, an author of the book American Grit. From a Japanese-American concentration camp, rises as an American war hero. And he is also the host of the podcast called Finding Better, where they share real-life experiences and wisdom that folks can learn from and apply to their own lives. John, how are you?
I'm doing great, Gerald. How are you?
Excellent. I'm doing great. Listen,
Good.
It's so exciting to have you on the call. And I remember when we first talked about your book, I was very intrigued with it and the way you went about writing it and the things that you have accomplished. What has made you so successful in your career up to this point?
What has made me successful, if I were to zero in on one thing,
Yes,
is just desire to make people happy. I know that sounds really, really weird, but the mantra that I live with in my life is that I feel that we all share a common purpose, and that is to make the world better than the day we landed on it.
right.
And it's kind of a core desire of mine. And I think I got it from my dad, who once told me when I started working, don't embarrass me. Do not embarrass this family, right? And it very much a Japanese cultural thing,
Right.
of never bringing shame to the family. So for me, it's been about wanting to make people happy, and there has been a fear factor for sure.
Yeah. I want to embarrass Dad.
Yeah, exactly.
Even if Dad's no longer here, it's like I don't want to
Yeah.
the memory of that.
Oh, dude, dads haunt you forever.
Exactly. Yeah, my dad was pretty strong, and both my mom and my dad were very, like, the fields that they worked in, they became experts at what they did, and so I learned a lot of that from them, of just toning in and becoming an expert. So we get subconsciously programmed by our parents.
Yeah, and I think one of the things that my dad really instilled with me, which I think is one of my gifts, is hard work. And I know that is a taboo topic. Some people say those words and they do this, but hard work. I like to work hard. I like to work very hard, and in most cases, I outwork everybody. Gerald, I'm not a smart guy, but I find that I learn a lot more when I work harder.
Yeah.
The harder I work, the more I learn, and so, that's been kind of the pattern of my life.
Gotcha. What do you think is poorly understood about productivity, hard work, the things that you're focused on now? I know you have a podcast called Find Better. What do you think is poorly understood about that?
I think that the things that are misunderstood about productivity is that a lot of people feel like when they see a problem or they have a problem or something's going wrong that they need to fix the productivity. My view over the years has been you design in productivity.
Right.
I believe that management is by brain and leadership is by heart.
Yeah.
And you're assigned management, you earn leadership, right? Your role as a leader. And so I think that in terms of productivity, it all has to do with people. And of course, there's tools involved. And of course, there's processes and things like that. But at the core of it is people.
Right.
And figuring out how you're going to motivate those people and lead those people and get those people to want to be productive and designing that in. And again, the productivity part of it, some people mistake productivity with management.
Yeah.
I view productivity as being a leadership, directly related to leadership and heart. I mean, you can create productivity with a whip.
Yeah.
Or you can create productivity by inspiring people and getting them to want to work hard and want to move the ball forward and want to be productive and want to hit their goals, right? So productivity is designed in. It's not something that is retrofitted, in my view, in my experience.
Excellent. Excellent. So listen, tell me your story. So, you've written this amazing book, American Grit. And again, it's a great story. It has a lot of great history in it. I learned a lot as I was going through it. Like, how did you go from your dad and your mom and all the things that you did growing up to where you are now? What's your journey like?
So I was born in Japan. I was an Air Force brat. And we moved to the United States, to New York, and when I was 3 years old. And I grew up my dad actually fought for the United States during World War II.
Gotcha.
And after World War II, his world was, it was pretty harsh. It was a lot of discrimination against Japanese Americans. And so, boy, I bled red, white, and blue. My first name is John. My middle name is James. And my last name is Suzuki, which is the most common name in Japan. So it's the Smith of Japanese names. So I tell people that my name is John James Smith, which is the ultimate cheap sale American name. You can't get more American than that, right? So I grew up being very, very patriotic because he fought in World War II against the Japanese. He's Japanese American fighting against the Japanese. He was a interpreter, a code breaker, a negotiator. There were a whole bunch of Japanese Americans who were in this top secret group.
Right.
And so he raised me with a pretty iron fist, and very, very high expectations. Never wanted to disappoint him. Certainly never wanted to piss him off. And went through college, did all the things a good Japanese American boy needs to do.
Right.
And my first job was with IBM.
Okay.
And it was in 1984. So, I've been in technology for, even prior to that, so 40 years. And just worked hard and set my goals. And I think the most successful thing for me in terms of productivity throughout my life has been my discipline.
Okay.
It wasn't a desire, but it was my discipline to set goals.
Okay.
Set goals, goal setting.
Yeah.
And writing them down. There's something about setting goals that is magic. And you and I can talk about that forever. And I worked in high tech for 40 years in high tech sales and technology evangelism.
Yep.
And it's just been a life of working hard, trying to be smart with my money.
Right.
And what I mean by that is that you've got two choices of what to do with your money. You can spend it or defend it. And what I mean by defending it is save it and keep everybody who wants your money from it. Right. And I did that for 35, 40 years. And I retired, quote unquote, from high tech in 22. And I launched my book in 23. And I launched my podcast in 24. And I'm just having the time of my life. And I'm able to meet and work with folks like you, Gerald. It's just amazing.
Excellent. Well, sounds like you made a lot of smart decisions. I think you did your dad proud.
Lucky. A lot of lucky ones and a lot of bad ones. I never talk about my bad decisions.
Those are the stepping stones and learning opportunities.
That's right. That's right.
So speaking of your book, I really want to take a deep dive here.
Okay.
Because again, I always, if I bring an author on and have a book, one of the pledges I make is I'm going to investigate your book. I'm going to come up with questions from your book. And yours was really interesting because you went back, and I liked in the beginning where you were looking for someone to talk to and you couldn't find anyone, but you found a widow.
Yes.
Shiro.
Of Shiro Kishino, yes.
And you were able to get obviously a lot of information from your research and from the conversations about his life and about him falling in love and all the journey that he was on, and going to Chicago, and going to was it Camp Happy or
Camp Shelby?
Camp Shelby, yeah.
Camp Shelby.
Camp Harmony. Camp Harmony that's the name.
Camp Harmony. Yes, that was a staging center for the concentration camps.
So all of that was really intriguing to you kind of took us into that experience. It was like watching a movie. Really, it was really interesting. So you did an amazing job. So
thank you.
That being said, how does the concepts of productivity intersect with the theme of your book?
Well, it's the core storyline, if you will, had to do, I knew about the Japanese American concentration camps during World War II. And I knew about the men who became part of a segregated Japanese American war unit called the 442nd, who went on to become the most decorated war unit in the history of the United States for its size and duration. Unbelievable story. What I didn't know was that there were men who actually volunteered out of the camps to fight for the United States Army, the same army that put them into those camps to begin with, and became some of the most decorated war heroes in the history of the United States. And it's an amazing, amazing story of going from not only nothing, but having everything taken away from you,
right?
Losing your home, losing all your belongings, losing your job and businesses and farms and everything,
right?
And all of the folks there, 120,000 people who were thrown into these camps.
Yeah.
Lots of people had everybody had different reactions to it. Some people blamed others, the government, their friends, or the people who didn't support them. And, when you blame people or certain things for your circumstances, you become a victim.
Right.
You become a victim. And one of the biggest lessons that I learned from this is that with these people who volunteered and went to war, while their families stayed in those camps and were under armed guard, these guys chose to take control of their own lives.
Yep.
These guys chose not to succumb to victimhood, but to get out and, for lack of a better term, be productive. Right. And what I mean by being productive is getting out, because their vision for their life was not spending the rest of their lives in the concentration camp.
Exactly.
And so it's one of those things where for them, Denzel Washington is one of my favorite actors. I mean, I love his acting, but he strikes me as a man who has a tremendous depth of character.
Yeah.
A quote that I heard from him said that ease is a greater enemy to progress than hardship.
Yes.
And you think about that and you go, right? And so you talk about hardship that these folks in the camps, faced. I can't think of a greater hardship than being stuck in the middle of the desert or some swamp. And all of a sudden, what are you going to do? And they basically decided that they were going to put their lives on the line.
Yeah.
And as I assess that, it's that vision and it's that leadership, because I mean, you talk about needing to find leadership for a bunch of people to go out and go to war.
Right.
Right. I mean, that aspect of productivity has a large part to do with wanting to prove something in their case and wanting to achieve freedom for their families.
Yeah.
So they had nothing to lose from where they came from. And they wanted to prove to the world that they could be just as loyal and just as patriotic as any other American to this country. Yeah.
Yeah, it was amazing, because when you got to that part of the book, you started telling the stories of folks who had to give up their stores or sell their home or give away, material possessions. And they basically kind of went into the camp with a suitcase, if you will.
Yeah, just what they could carry.
Whatever they could carry, everything else was just basically taken, or they had to sell or just get rid of.
Right.
And then, it was a camp, right? It wasn't a condo. It wasn't a neighborhood. It was a camp.
No, this is a military prison.
Military prison camp. And the bathroom situation, the food, and all the stuff that you kind of talk about, those are difficult challenges for anyone, but for folks who had already pulled themselves up by the bootstraps, if you will.
Right.
Made a life for themselves to then have it taken away. You could see almost that the camp was too small for them. And if it even meant working along with the country that was taking them through that journey, that they couldn't stay where they were. But they also made a decision to keep growing and grow through the challenges and not just go through that. And I was going to ask you again about the misconception of productivity, but I think I'm going to skip that question. And I want to focus on either something from your own life or something from Shiro's life in the book, where they had to overcome, he in the story had to overcome a productivity challenge, because there were a number of challenges that he was faced with, right? Just part of the story where, I almost said movie, part of the story, I'm putting it out there in the universe for you.
Thank you.
I think Netflix or somebody should pick this up. It really is a really good book.
Thank you.
But, there's these different journeys he had to go on, and it was interesting. So maybe I'll stop there and let you expound on, and you can either pick something from your own life or something from his life that you wrote about.
In terms of
overcoming productivity challenges, overcoming a difficulty.
Okay. The fact of the matter is, life is a process of difficulty, right? Life's not fair. It is not fair. And I mean, every day we deal with difficulty. And one of the big challenges that Shiro had in the book was that he was an amazing man, but he was pretty hard-headed. And, what made him amazing also made him a real pain in the butt for a lot of people. Sorry, Cheryl. I'm just going to say it, but you know that. And so anyway, in him was this, we talk about fire in the belly.
Yeah.
Right. I mean, this guy had a freaking inferno going on. And it was that sustained him through the war and helped him survive. He got 6 Purple Hearts, for crying out loud. He was shot and blown up 6 times.
Wow.
And most of those times until there was one time where he couldn't go back to the battle because he almost had the leg blown off. Every other time he went back to the battle. He got stitched up, he got shot and, shot, stitched up, ran away before anybody could stop him to go back to fight. Who does that? I mean, I get that in the Army, you do amazing, amazing things.
Right.
But, that's just something that the normal person just can't relate to.
Yeah.
And one of his biggest challenges in moving forward was the officers, his commanding officers.
Yeah.
And, he knew what he had to do and he knew what not to do. And a lot of times his commanding officers made different decisions. And so I think for me, and especially with people who really want to get things done, right? Working with the leadership, working with the management, and understanding where they're coming from is really, really important. And, I learned that productivity, when you're dealing with team productivity, it's all about caring. It's all about caring. I live by the saying, they don't care how much you know until they know how much you care.
Exactly.
Okay. And when you're a leader and you care about your people, you care about their aspirations, you care about what their interests are, you care about what their career goals are. And when people understand that, it becomes a different level of working together. And conversely, you have to care about the people above you. You have to care about everybody around you, your customers, your employees, and in particular, your leadership, and understanding what they're trying to accomplish and trying to get to that accepted middle ground.
Yeah.
And the only way you're going to do that is by genuinely trying to understand the other side. Now, when you're in battle, I mean, you have to make snap decisions. And there are times when the officer says, go that way. And you know that if you go that way, you're a dead man. And so you go that way instead. Right?
Exactly.
And so there are times when you have to make snap decisions. But the biggest key in my life, and the biggest key that I saw in Cash's life, Cheryl's life, was really to understand where everybody's coming from.
Yeah.
And, one of the things in Cash is that one, he never left a man behind. And, he was an orphan. And one of the ways that he felt was that he would rather die himself than any of his men going home in body bags, because they had parents to go home to, right? Cash didn't have parents to go home to. So that's why he took the most dangerous assignments. He never asked his men to do anything more dangerous than he was willing to do himself. Right. But I think that, it's just understanding the circumstances and understanding the people you're working with.
Yeah. Yeah. It seems that he followed a mantra of leadership that I've learned from Satya Nadella, the CEO of Microsoft.
Yes.
I think it was a LinkedIn training program. I just kind of listened to part of it, but the part that I listened to where Satya was talking about his vision for the leadership and their structure and their operational model, and he used this model that he coined, you model, you coach, and you care. And MCC, and the idea was you set the example and you model what you're looking to, what you want your people to be like and what you want your people to do. If you want to build a thought leadership organization, then you as the leader need to be a thought leader. And if you want to build a exemplary leadership organization or a technical savvy, then you as the leader need to be those things. Then you can coach
absolutely
to how to get there, but then you also need to care about the people that you lead. And it seems like he exemplified all of those characteristics. As I was looking through it as well and listening to what you're saying, it also reminded me of this other thing that I wanted to talk to you about, which is resilience, and how resilience seemed to be a very important process. As I believe it was in high school where he was playing quarterback and he started losing his vision a little bit.
Yes.
And that came back on him a few times, but he had, so he had his own challenges internally as well as physically and everything else. But it seemed that resilience played a big part in his life. When it comes to resilience, how does resilience play a role in maintaining productivity, especially during challenging times, based on what you've written in the book and even in your own life?
Well, in Cash's life, his resilience and his ability to keep going, and not give up. One of the things he told his men was, we are never going to retreat. If anybody's going to retreat, it's the enemy that's going to retreat.
Wow.
And they never lost a battle. They never lost a battle. And in his mind, he felt that they were just as smart as anybody else. And they had just as much heart as anybody else. And they weren't going to retreat. And, he never gave up. He never gave up. People ask me about why I work so hard sometimes.
Yeah.
And I tell them, you know what, the harder I work, the luckier I get. I don't know why. It just happens that way, right? But not giving up. I mean, no matter what it is you're doing, walking across the street, you may stub your toe. Don't give up. Right? I mean, and life is tough. But you keep going at it, you keep pushing hard, it's all inside here. It's all inside here. And I one thing I wanted to share with you is my personal experience, that it's your choice. It's your choice to continue to be resilient and not give up. That is a choice that you make.
Yeah.
Right. And I tell people, I say, your life at this moment is the sum of all the decisions that you've made in your life and the choices, right? And people say, well, no, I couldn't choose my parents. Well, yeah, okay. If you think about it and you say, okay, the life that you're going to get to is going to be the product of the decisions you make from now on, right?
Right.
Everybody goes, yeah, well, that's probably true. Okay, well, if that's true, then the past is true. And so, the resilience thing and the Cash and Satya, the one thing about them that really motivates people is knowing that they're not expecting anybody to do anything else that they're not willing to do themselves.
Right.
Right. And they see Cash charging up this hill. They go, okay, let's go. They see Satya charging up this hill. They're going to go, okay, let's go. Right. And building that resilience to keep going and not give up. And because when you give up, you're not only giving up on yourself,
Right.
You're giving up on other things and other people.
Right.
So, and especially in today's world, honestly, Gerald, I am so glad I'm not a young person anymore, because I mean, my gosh, with all of the different things coming at people these days,
It's a lot
right?
harder.
It's a lot harder, and you have to be that much stronger,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah. And so it's kind of like what you were saying earlier, but it's like the Denzel Washington quote, right? It's like, if you want things to be easy, then it's not going to challenge you to become your best. So those who will rise to the top now at the younger age are those who are willing to take the hit and to go against the grain of society
That's right.
and the popularity of where things are, and really say, I'm going to make a choice and a decision to create my life the way I want my life to be created, and not for my life to be shaped by societal thoughts and norms and mores, just because as a piece of driftwood out in the ocean being tossed around by the waves, but that I'm going to be a steamship that charts my course and go the direction that I want to go. So it really requires a manner of grit and of just guts and grit to say, this is what I'm going to do. And I'm not going to allow life or society or anyone else to push me around to do something or be something that I don't want to be. Because inside we all, again, just thinking about Shiro and the story, he had a vision for what he wanted in his life.
That's right.
And he was doggedly determined to carry that out, even if it meant fighting on the side of the folks who had incarcerated him with the other Japanese families and their children.
That's right.
But he made a decision that I'm better than this, and I am going to rise above this situation. And we all have the ability to do that.
Yes, we do.
But
and that's right. That's exactly right. Right. And that's why I love your podcast, Gerald. And that's part of that's probably the biggest reason why I started my podcast, is because, everybody's looking for better. But in today's world, it's so harsh. And I wanted to create a place where people could come and know that it's okay to be different. It's okay to disagree. It's okay to want more for yourself. It's okay to not go with the flow, right? Because I mean, Lord knows that our political leaders aren't bringing us together. They're not inspiring us, right? And so, creating a safe place for people to come to where they can learn and learn from people who have been there and done that, and who have the experiences of success and failure that they can learn from and apply to their own lives. It's really important. It's really important. So, yeah, another thing, I was talking to a friend of mine, and he was saying we're having this debate about success and failure, and I'm one of those guys that says, you know what? If you're not successful, you're not failing enough.
Right.
Right. So get out there and fail. And, people, no, I don't want to fail. Right. The fear of failure, that whole thing. Well, it's failure leads to success.
Right.
And it's okay to keep going. But to me, in this world, that is certainly one of the top 3 things, character traits, that is really, really important, is the ability to persevere.
Yeah, you definitely have to persevere, you have to be resilient, and you have to make those tough decisions in front of difficult situations. And not all the difficult situations are sitting across from an enemy. It could be sitting across from family that thinks than you, or that doesn't always agree with the way you're doing things, but you're going to make a decision to do them that way and pursue them anyway, and to continually grow yourself and get better, not bitter. So
that's right.
A couple more questions here before we begin to wrap this up. When you think of strategies that you use, obviously you've written a book and it's doing very well, and you got the new podcast, and so you're accomplishing things even after your initial retirement. How do you prioritize your top activities to stay focused on your goals? How do you do it?
That one is really easy. I have a rest of life vision that I wake up to every single morning. And And yeah, I've been blessed with resources and time, now that I'm retired from working.
Right.
I mean, I want to help people. I want to help people. Real quickly, one of my favorite stories is about an old man that's walking along the beach. And the night before was a huge, huge storm. And there are thousands of starfish strewn across this beach. And out in the distance, he sees the little boy picking up starfish and throwing them back in the ocean. And he walks up to the little boy and he says, "What are you doing?" And he says, "I'm throwing starfish back into the ocean." And the old man says, "There must be thousands of starfish out here. How can you possibly make a difference?" And the little boy kind of thinks about it. He looks down, picks up a starfish, throws it back into the ocean, and says, "I made a difference to that one." And right.
Yes.
And, we live in such a broken world right now. Like I said at the beginning, I think that one of my purposes and all of our purposes is to make this world better than the day we landed on it. And the way I'm choosing to do that is to help people.
Right.
Because when you lift somebody, you lift the world. And, it might sound corny, it might sound Pollyannish, but I've had a great career working, and now I can spend my life. I've got 3 grandkids, 2.5, one's on his way.
Okay.
That's what instantly that it gets me up in the morning. I'm up at 5:30 every morning. And when I wake up, I'm just up and I'm on my computer and I'm trying to figure out, okay, what can I do better?
Right.
So have a reason. Have a reason. And you know what? Don't give up your passion. Don't give up your interests. One of the greatest things towards productivity that I used to live with was really encouraging my people to go on vacation. Really encourage them to pick up, do on the side the things that you want to, because you know what? It makes you a better employee. Right. When you're able to go off on vacation, you're able to just let that stuff go, right, at work. And all of a sudden your mind it starts filling in blanks when you don't block it off. And I see people come back to work and I go, "Where'd you come up with that?" Well, you know what? I thought about it while I was on vacation.
Right. That's an interesting concept because, and again, that's a lot of what my podcast is about, which is the productivity smarts piece. And what that principle is that when you're dealing with something, right, we have our conscious mind. And if you put your feet together and draw a circle around them, that's the size of your conscious mind. If you put a pencil in the middle and go out 11 miles and draw a circle all the way around you, 11 miles wide, that's like your non-conscious mind.
Okay.
And so what we do is if we have a challenge or a difficulty or we're working on a problem and we wrestle with it consciously and then go, okay, you know what? I'm going to let this go and let the rest of my mind take over. And we go on vacation, or we go hit some golf balls, or we go take a walk, or we go take a bath, or we do something other than what we were working on. And we let the other part of our mind that is so much more vast and connected and everything.
Absolutely.
It will find the answer for us and bring us solutions that we would have never thought of. But if we try to effort our way to the solution, we always come up with subpar solutions.
That is amazing. I've never heard it explained like that, Gerald.
That's why that works so well. That we have to wrestle with it for a while, because that's the only way we get to the non-conscious is we have to go to the conscious, and we wrestle with it for a while, but then we turn it over to our non-conscious mind and go do something else.
And then it processes.
And you may go camping for a couple of days, and then you come back and go, okay, what answers do you have for me? And just stop and let that little still voice start talking to you. And pretty soon you start downloading all this information and ideas about that solution or that issue that you were dealing with that you would have never come up with if you hadn't turned it over to the power of your mind, because we're all geniuses. And it's basically us tapping into it. And so as I look at your book and I look at the story, I was really fascinated with the book, the story. I was fascinated with you as a person from a standpoint of hearing these stories, but then for yourself, it really didn't touch your family, but you felt compelled to get in touch with this story. Because most people who will write a book like this that gets that deep, it's because, well, it happened to someone I know in my family. You didn't have that, but you were still moved by that.
I absolutely was. And it's such a part of our history. And everything in my book is true, by the way. I call it the greatest superhero love story ever lived. And it's a chapter of our history that's being forgotten and it's not being taught.
Right.
And the scores of people that I interviewed all said the same thing. They all said, you know what? Don't let the world forget about us. Don't let the world forget what we went through. And for Pete's sake, do your best to make sure this doesn't happen again.
Right.
And that's why I wrote the book. And it's interesting because of what we've been talking about, the underlying theme of it being so applicable to life in our world today.
Yes.
Of having a vision and having that grit and that resilience and doing what you believe in. It all applies today.
It does. It really does.
Yeah.
We have the ability to make the decision of the direction we want our lives to go, irregardless of what society or all the chaos that's out there.
That's right.
We can determine what direction we want to go in. As we close out, where can people learn about you and learn about your podcast?
So my podcast is called Finding Better, and my website is johnsuzuki.com, just like the motorcycle, johnsuzuki.com. So you can go there, and it's got everything and probably a lot more than you ever want.
Excellent. Excellent. John, I got all the links. I got the information that you gave me. I have thoroughly enjoyed our conversation. Again, I would recommend, if you're listening to this podcast and you want a really good read, and one that's not just a good read where you're going to learn some things, but where your heart's going to be moved, and you're also going to get in touch with a piece of history that you probably didn't know anything about at a really intimate level, you got to pick up American Grit. John, thank you so much for being on my podcast. I really enjoyed our conversation.
Gerald, it's been an honor and a pleasure. Thank you so much.
You're welcome. If you're enjoying the content and finding it valuable, we would appreciate it if you could take a moment and leave us a review. Your feedback is important to us and helps us reach a wider audience. If you leave us a 5-star review, it would mean the world to us. Not only does it help us improve the podcast, but it also helps us attract more sponsors and grow our community. Thank you again for your support and for listening to the Productivity Smarts podcast.
Thank you for tuning in to Productivity Smarts, where we help you achieve your goals and live your best life. We hope you've gained valuable insights and actionable strategies to boost your productivity and increase your happiness and fulfillment. Remember to apply what you've learned and keep striving towards your goals. And if you haven't already, be sure to subscribe to our podcast for more inspiring episodes and expert advice from our host, Gerald J. Leonard. Until next time, keep pushing forward and unleashing your productivity smarts.